Well, Patriots fans, we have our next head coach, and that is Jerod Mayo. The former Patriot legend at linebacker is the one that will succeed Bill Belichick as the head coach in Foxborough. Robert Kraft making a swift decision. We'll talk about how the players reacted, at least some players. We'll talk about some of the rumors surrounding the offensive coordinator search and defensive coordinator position on this Patriots coaching staff in this video. But I do want to get a quick pulse of the Patriots Nation before we jump into some of these rumors. Do you like Jerod Mayo as the next Patriots head coach? Type Y for yes, type N for no. There's a lot of people that are in on it. I want to know if you are as well. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Some of the players really like this hire for the Patriots. And we'll start with the linebacker, who obviously works with Jerod Mayo quite a bit because Mayo was the linebackers coach this past season. He tweeted out, Mack Wilson, the start of a new era that I'd love to be a part of, which is intriguing as well because Mack Wilson is an impending free agent. So he's making it abundantly clear he'd love to re-sign with the New England Patriots to play under Jerod Mayo. So happy for this dude. Well-deserved big coach. And it didn't stop there. Juju Smith-Schuster, the wide receiver for the Patriots, posted the Instagram post from the NFL to his IG story and said, "Oh, we gonna be lit." So it's clear to me that players liked Jerod Mayo. And it's always tough when you replace a guy like Bill Belichick, right? He is a legend, the best coach of all time, the GOAT. And when you move on from someone like that, you're going to have to make the correct hire. Don't rock the boat, as I like to say. And I'll tell you right now, the hiring of Jerod Mayo does not rock the boat at all. There are players in the locker room like him, so if there was any concern about free agents to be saying, well, Belichick's no longer the coach, there's no chance I re-sign or sign an extension, I don't think that will be the case. Mayo has the locker room, he has the support, and the amount of support as well coming in from former New England Patriots players and teammates of Jerod Mayo. You saw James White, Jamie Collins, Danny Woodhead, Deion Branch. All of these Patriots legends and former teammates of Jerod Mayo talked about his leadership ability. And that's the number one thing that I've always wanted in a head coach. You can be the greatest X and O's guys there is, but if you can't relate to your players, you can't be a leader of men, you will not succeed in the National Football League. And I just look over in Chicago right now. Matt Eberflus, who a lot of Bears fans want gone, they ended up retaining him, obviously, and keeping him for this upcoming season. He's a great defensive mind. He had that Bears defense cooking. But I don't think anyone actually believes that he can lead them to a title because of how he leads that locker room. That's the one thing with Jerod Mayo. I absolutely love his ability to lead men and relate to them. And he's still only 37 years old, so he has a chance to grow and be a good mentor to the older veterans and the young guys coming into the league as well. Coming up on the rest of today's show, what is going to be the likely outcome for the Patriots defensive coordinator position and the Patriots offensive coordinator spot? Does Bill O'Brien stay? Who ends up being the full-time DC? Does Jerod Mayo call plays as head coach? Very intriguing situation down in Foxborough. We'll check it out on the rest of the video. But I want to make sure you have all subscribed to us here at Patriots Today. We had you covered with the Mayo breaking news. We talked about him with Mike Vrabel as the two lead candidates yesterday after the Belichick breaking news, and we will not stop there. Lock us in here at Patriots Today and subscribe, whether it be myself, Nic Rohloff, or Harrison Graham. We will make sure you are up to date on the latest Patriots news and rumors as we head into a very important offseason for the New England Patriots. Let's start with the defensive side of the ball and look at what the situation is going to be for the defensive coordinator. And I want to first start with outlining what the defensive coaches were for New England this year, or at least the top coaches. The defensive line coach, which we'll talk about a lot here in a second, DeMarcus Covington. He's a very coveted guy. He's young as well, 34 years old. We'll talk about the Patriots' rush defense in a second, but he's done a fantastic job in New England. You have Jerod Mayo and Steve Belichick working as the co-linebackers coach as well as co-defensive coordinators because Steve Belichick called the plays on Sundays. But Jerod Mayo took lead role as defensive coordinator duties. He ran the defensive meetings. He ran the film studies. He ran and put into place what the game plan defensively was going to be on that given game. So it's kind of a split where Belichick called the plays, but Mayo installed the schemes that New England were going to run. You also got the cornerbacks coach Mike Pellegrino, Brian Belichick, another Belichick as the safeties coach, and defense assistant Viangelo Bentley. So you have two Belichicks on that list, not named Bill. You wonder if Belichick ends up going to, say, a Chargers, a Falcons, somewhere else in the league. Do both Belichicks follow him, or would Steve and Brian potentially stay under Jerod Mayo? But I think the biggest question we have to talk about and potentially answer is, will Jerod Mayo call plays for the Patriots defense? He did not call them this year, as I noted, but he installed the game plans. And that is basically the majority of the job for the defensive coordinator leading up to game days. So it is fascinating to see him not call plays, but run the game plan. And I think it's largely dependent on what the Patriots will elect to do in Jerod Mayo with who calls plays. Because if Mayo calls plays, the defensive coordinator position becomes, I say, less important because he's taking that role. And I'll say this, if Mayo doesn't want to call plays, we talked about the defensive line coach. He's only 34 years old, DeMarcus Covington. I think I lean towards him being the next DC who does everything Mayo did, but also calls the plays on Sundays. Because what he showed the ability to do when talking about the rushing defense of the Patriots was just fantastic. He was the defensive line coach. That and linebackers have to deal with the run game. And the Patriots only allowed 93.2 yards per game on the ground this past season, which was fourth in the NFL. And if you just look at what they gave up on each carry, yards per carry, 3.3 yards to opposing rushers, whether it be quarterback or running back. That ranked number one in the NFL, was the best mark, by the way, since the 2019 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I believe it was. And they were oh so close at being 3.2 yards per carry, which would have been the top number since the 2014 Detroit Lions. So this rushing defense was one of the best that we've seen over the past 5 seasons. DeMarcus Covington and Jerod Mayo had a large part in that. So you get him, Covington, as DC, and then you get Jerod Mayo as head coach. You're going to have a really good defensive, scheme rocking on a day-to-day basis. And I also want to note, when it comes to DeMarcus Covington, he actually interviewed for a defensive coordinator role last year. He interviewed with the Cardinals and Chargers, elected to stay with New England. So he's someone who is coveted from other organizations, the Cardinals and Chargers, last year as a potential DC. So young mind, good relationship with Jerod Mayo. I think he could be your guy as defensive coordinator. I do want to go through 5 names, though, that could be a defensive coordinator if it wasn't DeMarcus Covington and they wanted to go back outside. Patrick Graham has done a fantastic job in Las Vegas as the defensive coordinator. Who knows where they go with their head coach spot? If they elect to not go Antonio Pierce and Patrick Graham's on the outs, he'd be intriguing. This is a funny one, but Matt Patricia, could he return to New England? He's been a head coach in the National Football League. He's been the Patriots OC. He's been the Patriots DC. Could he return? A sneaky name I do want to mention, Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for Michigan. He has been fantastic for the Wolverines. And if Jim Harbaugh leaves, maybe he looks to go to the next level as well, but maybe he would also join Jim Harbaugh's staff. Mike Pettin, former head coach and defensive coordinator in the National Football League. He's an assistant head coach for Minnesota. He's a really good defensive mind. He'd intrigue me. And Dave Borgonzi, the linebackers coach in Chicago. If he wants to take that next step, those linebackers in Chicago are really good. TJ Edwards, Jack Sanborn, and Tremaine Edmonds. He would intrigue me, but I still lean DeMarcus Covington. Do you agree with me, though? Who do you want as the next Patriots defensive coordinator? Do you want it to still be Steve Belichick, who calls plays? Do you want it to be one of the 5 names I mentioned, or would you be like me and want it to be DeMarcus Covington? I kind of alluded to it, but I'm on the train of I think I'm fine keeping Steve Belichick as the defensive play caller because he's proven that he can do it with the Patriots having an elite defense over the last 4 years. The defense has never been the issue in Foxborough. It's always been the offense ever since Tom Brady left. But if Belichick ends up following his father to a different organization, I would say let's go DeMarcus Covington. Which is why you should subscribe, because when the Patriots officially announce who is going to be defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator for that matter, which we'll get to in just a second, we will have you covered. So lock us in here at Patriots Today. Hit that sub button. Offensive coordinator will be key, though, for the Patriots because the offense has been not so good over the past 2 years. Matt Patricia was OC last year, Bill O'Brien this season, and it's going to be important for them to nail that hire going forward. And I think the largest question we have to ask ourselves, and Jerod Mayo is going to be peppered in his opening press conference on Wednesday at noon Eastern about these questions and situations and questions. Will Bill O'Brien stay on as the Patriots offensive coordinator? I'm okay if he does, but I mean, the offense was so bad this year, you'd have to ask, does there need to be an upgrade? So there's 8 names that I have my eye potentially on. Eric Bieniemy is probably on the outs in Washington once they hire a new coach. He's been up and down. He started off the year really good calling plays, had Sam Howell looking solid, but they really teetered off down the stretch. Kellen Moore in Los Angeles, he might be on the outs too if they hire a Ben Johnson or a Jim Harbaugh. He's had a lot of experience calling plays. Still really young, by the way. He's only 35. Maybe Kellen Moore can hop over to Foxborough. Shane Waldron, which he still is the OC in Seattle. He calls plays, and it's fascinating to see him potentially still be an OC somewhere else, especially with Pete Carroll on the outs in Seattle. He was interviewed by the Chicago Bears as a potential OC replacement for Luke Getsy. Clint Kubiak, the passing game coordinator in San Francisco. I'll talk more in depth about him, but he's an intriguing name. Zach Robinson, the quarterbacks coach for the Rams, is also someone I have my eye on. Young guy coming from the Shanahan McVay tree. How about Frank Smith, the offensive coordinator in Miami? And you could actually get him because he did not call plays, and he does not call plays for the Dolphins. So he can go call plays in Foxborough from the Dolphins organization and take that McDaniels kind of approach from that offensive scheme perspective. And how about Josh McDaniels? Listen, you can talk about how bad Josh McDaniels is as a head coach, but one thing you can't deny is his ability to be an offensive coordinator. He had Mac Jones looking like a top 15 quarterback in football as a rookie, and he's had so much success in the past with Brady as an offensive coordinator. I would not hate Josh McDaniels as the OC in New England one bit. I know there's a negative connotation surrounding him in around league circles. I don't think there's a concern there if he's your OC. And how about a shocking name? Cliff Kingsbury, the quarterback's coach for the USC Trojans. I think that is someone that would be awesome in New England. He also used to play in New England. He was a player in QB for the Patriots back in the day. How about this scenario? And I'm not saying it's likely, but what if the Patriots elected to trade up to number 1 and took Caleb Williams? You don't think it would be good to have his quarterback coach from last year be his offensive coordinator? He's been an established play caller in the National Football League for the Arizona Cardinals before. I think Kingsbury could be a very intriguing option. He's played in New England. He has the ear and knows how to coach Caleb Williams. If the Patriots elected to go that route and make a big splash move up to number 1 and take Caleb Williams, I think Cliff Kingsbury would be an interesting guy. But who comes to mind for you? Who do you want to be the next Patriots offensive coordinator? I asked you who you want to be the DC. Now flip over to the offensive end. Who do you want to be the offensive coordinator in Foxborough for the 2024 NFL season? My choice, I'm actually fine with keeping Bill O'Brien. I really am. I think his scheme is something that works in the NFL. We've seen him have success in Houston, in Foxborough before he left to go explore other options. I like Bill O'Brien. But dang, I'm very intrigued by Clint Kubiak and Cliff Kingsbury. Like what I mentioned with Kingsbury about the Caleb Williams situation and that possibility. I'd love Cliff to be the OC if Caleb Williams is your quarterback for the Patriots. But Clint Kubiak is a really good name because he's young. He comes from that Shanahan offense. And it feels like at this point in time, unless I'm proven otherwise, anything Kyle Shanahan touches and that San Francisco 49ers organization touches, it turns to gold. And I think Kubiak would be one heck of an offensive coordinator for the Patriots, establishing a different scheme. But if you do want to keep that same scheme, I'm cool with keeping Bill O'Brien. Thanks for tuning in throughout today's video on the latest Patriots coaching rumors. Offense, defensive coordinators is going to be a hot topic in Foxborough. Make sure you do lock us in here because we will have you covered. We'll have an OC candidate list expanded coming up in the next few days, as well as DC candidates, GM rumors as well. We have it all, so lock us in here at Patriots Today and hit that sub button.